The Chinese silver market is in trouble. I'm going to explain why this may not affect the price as much as you would think, but it's still a very big deal. Let's talk about it as we explore. When I say it may not affect price by much, I mean in the short term. The reason why I say that is because the markets in China have been under stress for quite some time now before leading up to the big run-up in silver's price. I think it only exacerbated, but the Chinese market is incredibly important for sure in terms of silver. And I'm going to be referencing some pieces here that have been posted over at X by Oriental Ghost, who is plugged into what's going on in China. And there's some parts and some posts and some analysis that he gives here that I disagree with slightly, but overall, it's pretty amazing the numbers that are coming out there, especially with what he had reported just a few days before I recorded this video. On October the 27th, the numbers tell the tale of what's going on there and the massive stress in the markets. And he reports here that on the market data for October the 27th shows that the silver vault and the Shanghai Gold Exchange experienced a significant outflow last week, falling below 1,000 tons for the first time. The Shanghai Futures Exchange continues to see outflows of silver vaults. The silver inventories in both exchanges hit a record low. So that is the basis and the foundation that we're looking at here. Now, if you still want silver, you can still buy it here in the United States for sure. Bullion dealer Summit Metals, the channel sponsor, is a great company, excellent staff there, and both owners are terrific people. So check them out and experience their great customer service and selection for yourself by clicking on the link in the description below. So what are these numbers? Well, there on the 27th on that report, we're seeing outflows that have left it down to 905,235 tons of silver. That's the first time ever that we've seen it fall below 1,000 tons there in these markets. So that's a big deal, folks. They're under stress right now. Still a lot of silver there, but notwithstanding, in the grand scheme of things, why is this happening? I'm going to tell you that here later in the video. And he also responds to that and says it's the net outflow. But he says that the actual outflow, as opposed to the net, is much larger, probably looking at the overall silver market and what's moving there. China is a massive silver devouring beast. In a few years, global silver production capacity will be unable to meet China's industrial demand. And think about that. With all of the demand that we're already seeing, the stress overall in the overall silver market is really starting to come to a head, at least in some point here in China. And we're seeing that global silver production capacity, and it's not going to be able to meet the demand for China's industries. So all industrial products have a scrap life. And in the future, the combination of new production capacity and the replacement capacity after scrapping will double the strain on the silver supply. And that's one area where I slightly disagree. There's a lot more recycling going on, and part of that I talked about in a recent video here in the United States, but more than likely, some of those recycling capacities and refining capabilities are going to also come to China as well, too. They will have no choice but to add some of that stuff into place. But he says that all of that will double the strain on silver supply, and $100 per ounce is not a fantasy, but a real danger we face. In other words, he sees that as a danger and something that is almost inevitable. And that's where I disagree with him there, because I think the market will adjust, and just as it has, the industrial market specifically with silver will adjust to that and be able to scrap out more. Because of the great demand. They're going to get it from anywhere they can. They're going to gobble it up because it's needed. And so I think that's something that is going to happen probably sooner rather than later. We're already seeing it here in the United States with Dillon Gage. Other refineries in Hong Kong and China, I think, will probably expand their operations too because it will be profitable. But it does not mean that I think we're going to see $100 per ounce anytime soon. However, I do think that $50 plus silver will be the impetus and the increased demand for it. It will be what will motivate them to make a profitable business of refining. But again, there's a lot of nuance in that, and setting that up is something that may take a little bit of time, just as it was the case for this Dallas refinery that I referred to in another video. I wanted to wait a bit to report this because I talked about how the normalization of the silver market was taking place, but I left out one key area in my previous video. But first, let me just revisit that and recap what I discussed there. And that is a normalization of the London LBMA vaults. Part of that normalization there has caused a strain here in China. A lot of that silver is flowing west out of China. That's right. That's part of it. Yes, indeed. But it's also the lack of demand in India after Diwali has finished up, that season. Now, we're going to be getting into wedding season soon in India, so that will keep the pressure on silver demand there for their populace. And then also the glut of silver here in the United States. There's more silver flowing out of the COMEX that's going to bring everything back into position, and it really has brought back into contango out from a backwardation situation. So that is another factor that we're seeing play out there in this situation. But it's the only place now that's left where there is stress in the markets is indeed in China. And it is confirmed by the next report that he has put out, which is basically just here the reporting for October the 28th, which is just a day before this video was recorded. These are the latest data that shows the markets for the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the Shanghai Futures Exchange. Same amount of silver there. No, not a single gram has been moved out, or a kilogram. It's still 905,235 kilograms, which is just under 1,000 tons, or that's actually tons. But nonetheless, that's what's there. And then today's movement, which is the Shanghai Future Exchange Silver Vaults, showing out at 657,423 tons. So there's that. And by the way, the other numbers that I will mention here that I think are very important to understand, and that is the raw silver range. It's still in a range of trading, much lower than it was in the past, and that is the range between $47.75 and $63.52. Remember, I reported on this fairly recently where that range was trading up to $128. That has now since pulled back since we were in contagion. Since now we're there in contango, rather. And silver, though, is holding on overnight to its recent gains in the last trading day as I record this video. But nonetheless, it is still higher in China for the raw silver amount, and the actual price there in China is $48.18. So there is that spread there, creating still somewhat of an extended arbitrage opportunity that we're seeing there. So it's fascinating to see these markets move and the data is released. Now, something on a somewhat unrelated matter is how important China is to the economy around the world. China accounts for 70% of the world's rare earth resources and 90% of its production. Rare earths come from the byproducts of electrolytic aluminum. China's electrolytic aluminum capacity accounts for 51% globally, and its production accounts for 61.12%. And of course, silver is mixed in with all of that too. Silver, very important. It is the most diverse metal on the periodic table. There's no other metal that comes close to it. And so silver is muchly needed. And as much as they need it, well, we need it too to stack to preserve our wealth. No question about that, and we're going to continue to do that. So it's fascinating to see. Now, I don't think this is going to have an immediate impact because we've been in this situation before with China. It's just exacerbated now because we still have that range for raw silver. And by the way, there's still a lot of Chinese big whales that are buying, hundreds of kilos of it even. I saw one video of somebody buying looked to be almost 100 kilos in kilo-sized bars. So I don't know what that buyer is, if it's an intermediary or he's, or some sort of broker or what have you. But nonetheless, it's pretty interesting to see that happen and occur. So there you have it. I strive to bring you the latest news and analysis in the world of precious metals. If you enjoy what I do here, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel, pressing that thumbs up button, hitting that notifications bell. So with that being said, I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.